That's not terrifying at all. What the hell is that? Just filming in a garage with creepy sounds coming from the outside. Yep. Yep. I ain't afraid of no ghost. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a very crazy month and a couple of weeks. My last video where I was painting the jean jacket, you could probably tell that my voice was in rough shape. I ended up having like the worst bout of laryngitis I've ever had. In fact, I'm not completely over it, and you'll probably hear that. Did you hear that? As the video goes on, I can't get higher register sounds to come through, so I am seeing a specialist this week to kind of figure out what's going on with that. Right as things were starting to return to be a little bit normal vocal cord wise, we got hit with what we're calling the Snowmageddon here in Texas, Central Texas. For those of you who are not aware, we were hit with a very large ice and snowstorm a couple of weeks ago, and it knocked out our power and water supply for about a week. I am from the Midwest originally, so I'm used to heavy snowfall, blizzards, all of that stuff. But the way that pipes and grid systems are designed in the northern parts of the country are usually really prepared to be able to deal with situations like this. And unfortunately, we were not prepared for it. And yeah, it was a very scary experience, but I learned a lot, and there's a lot that I had to be grateful for. I think that it's, you gotta look for silver linings when things like that happen. And one of the silver linings was we all came together as a community, and we were supporting each other. People were bending over backwards to open their doors for others, bring water, supplies, words of comfort, just a lot of those things. And it just really warmed my heart and reminded me that in times of crisis and in times of need, that at our very core and our very essence, we're human, and that care really came through, and that was very special to see. Sorry, I'm not gonna get emotional. Much to be grateful for there. Another piece that you probably already noticed is we have a new friend who is here today, and that is Genesis. My husband is a wonderful photographer. We both have passion for like toys and collecting. He has really enjoyed taking pictures of Fortitude and thought it would be cool to get his own doll that he could take photos of that has a very different aesthetic from Fortitude. So while Fortitude is like very kawaii, cute, pastel, Jen is gonna be like really like hardcore, badass chick. She'll probably have a motorcycle at some point. We're very excited to do some cosplays with the two of these lovely ladies. The other silver lining that I have been so incredibly grateful for is the act of sewing. I cannot tell you how therapeutic sewing has been. I remember during the ice storm how nervous I was, and so sewing was really my salvation. And I know it sounds kind of silly, but like it activates both sides of your brain, and so it didn't allow me to focus on anything else but the act of sewing, and I'm so grateful for that. I sew pretty much every day. I am not great. I probably will never be great. Fortitude is sporting this lovely sock sweater dress, which is what we are going to be making today. We're going to be making two different variations of a sock sweater dress.
Hold on to your butts.
They are super fun, super easy to do.
Look who's funny.
And there are lots of different ways that you can get creative with them. I am going to be using two different socks today. These are Batman socks that I got, oh gosh, a couple of years back. I feel like these are very Fortitude appropriate clothes, so I thought that this would be a super fun sweater dress project for her. And then for Jen, so I am going to make Genesis a sweater dress out of these socks. To get started, I took a sock and cut off the toe. I measured just by like holding this part of the neck up to Fortitude, and I was like, okay, that's probably a decent length. and went ahead and trimmed the excess off. And what I like about this is that this is going to be the neckband, that neckline. It will work as an off the shoulder, or you can actually pull it up higher if you don't like the off the shoulder look or you just want to change it up. And then I thought the way that the belt sits really nice for the bottom of the dress. Now, usually when I sew these, I cut off on the second sock this band here, and I end up using this to sew at the bottom of the dress as well, and so it's kind of like got that going on. I'm not gonna do that with this one today because I feel like that's a lot of yellow, and I really like the way that this belt looks just as is. So what I'm going to do instead is pin and hem the bottom, and then we will be cutting off this piece to be using as sleeves. Since I don't want pattern here within this sock, and I really just want it to be solid pink. Really the only place that I'm gonna get solid pink from below the bat signal here, and have this be like the little sleeve cap. So you will need a pair of knee-high socks. You will need whatever thread of your choosing. I have pins for pinning. I have a measuring tape. I also have a seam ripper in case I need to rip some seams, because I don't always get things right on the first try, and then a pair of fabric scissors. Your first step will be to cut off the toe of the sock. Determine how long you want your torso to be. Like I said, I usually just hold it up here and kind of figure that out. You can also measure if you want to be super accurate. And then I'm gonna now cut for where the sleeves are going to live. I just fold in half, and then I cut very close right up to the neckline. The neckline is that band that we talked about, and you don't want to cut too far in, too deep. You're just gonna cut like a little crescent, and you will have your armholes. So the first piece that I'm gonna cut off is the band here, because I'm going to be using this yellow band to make little caps for my sleeves, and then I'm gonna cut it again in half. I'm just gonna do one of these because I just want to make sure I'm real accurate with my cutting. So these are gonna act as my cap sleeves there, and then for here I am going to cut again. I'm gonna cut off the toe of the sock as well. And then I don't want any of this bat signal, like at all. I usually keep scraps of all of my fabric because I just never know what I am going to make out of things. I've been doing like some really fun hybrid projects where like I use a sock for part of what I'm sewing, and then I'll actually use other fabric to make sleeves, such. Yeah, so I'll probably keep this and use this for something else at some point. All right, so this is going to be my sleeves. I'm gonna go ahead and fold this in half, like so, and we are gonna cut down the folded line. I know I'm eyeballing things and that might make a couple of you crazy out there, but like, because I have this beautiful mat that I can actually like measure and cut things accurately, but you know, we're just having an adventure. This is just a casual, chill little project. We are going to sew our arms closed. So I'm gonna flip it wrong side out, or inside out. Gonna flip and pin. I'm gonna flip and pin it. Lovely. And we're gonna do the same with this bad boy. All right, so we have those pinned. We are also going to do the same. We're gonna pin our cuffs because we're gonna sew those closed. So we're gonna go ahead and flip those inside out, wrong way, facing out, and pin those suckers closed. Cool beans. And then the last thing that I'm going to pin is I am going to hem this. I am just going to, like I do, estimate about a 1/4 inch seam. I should also probably be facing my needles down. But what fun is that? You know, I like to live my life on the edge. So we should probably do a stab count in the corner here because this is gonna happen. Happens every time. So we're gonna start sewing the arms. And last time we did this project, I said just do a normal stitch. You are welcome to do a normal stitch. I'm not doing normal stitches anymore because I find that the stitches break apart a lot easier. So I learned how to back stitch. I'm gonna insert a photo here to show you what a normal stitch looks like. And then I will insert a photo here as a comparison for a back stitch. I would recommend looking it up on YouTube or Google. It is not a complicated stitch, and it should be a very supportive, strong stitch, which is why I use it. All right, so we're gonna knot, hoop, pull. Oh, how is this one gonna be? Oh yeah, cool. All right, so the last two steps, so we're gonna do the hem for the bottom of the dress and then sew the arms on, and then we'll get moving on to dress numero dos. So now we have hemmed the bottom, and now we are going to attach the sleeves. And I'm going to explain the attachment of the sleeves because GoPro is recording me as a spaceship in Star Wars going through hyperspace, hyperdrive. True story. You are going to want to flip your sweater dress inside out, and you will leave your sleeves facing the right side out. All right, so flipping. All right, so we're flipped inside out, and you're gonna take whichever sleeve, doesn't matter, facing right side out, and you're gonna make sure you find the seam, because you want the seam to be not exposed, you want the seam to be on the inside of the dress, and you're gonna actually point the seam facing you. So the seam is facing me right now, and I'm tucking it in, and I'm matching it up with the hole that I cut. You can pin for some extra support. Again, I'm crazy and I don't. But that seam, which is now facing you, the camera, is here, facing me. So when I flip it around when we're done sewing, it will be facing the inside. All right, so lay well down. So here is dress number 1. We are going to jump into sweater number 2. Good morning and welcome back to day 2. Oh my goodness. After I got done with initial filming, I was still working on Jen's dress because after trying it on Fortitude, it was a hot mess. It is such a thick sock material that the shoulders were just really bulky and not cute, and the neckline looked terrible. So I thought maybe making it into a V-neck would look good. It didn't look good. So I, as you can see, hacked it off. Said no to that. And it left me with this here. Now I want this to be the top of the dress, and it's gonna be kind of like a tube top dress, It may end up being a tube dress if I don't get the straps the way that I want them to. So all I've done here is folded, because we're gonna do a hemline, because I don't want it to look too raw at the top, because these socks do a lot of shredding. These socks look really gnawed at the top. It's not a good look. I don't mind a rough edge for some things, but I think with these specific socks, they will just fray and fall apart really easily, so doing a hem is important here. And then for the bottom, I went ahead and that ankle band that was on them, I ended up cutting that off and attaching it here at the bottom. Like we did the cuffs or the sleeves here, I flipped it inside out and put it over, lining it up with the bottom of the sock. So that way when I flip it again, it'll be flipped right side out when I flip it, and it'll look good at the bottom, hopefully. So I'm hemming the top of the sock that I cut off and then attach the ankle band at the bottom. And then for the sleeves, all I did was just cut, see it's just fraying everywhere. I cut a 5" by a 1/2" rectangle for the straps. What I ended up doing is I ended up folding it right side out, because these are gonna be so thin. There's no way that I'm gonna be able to flip them inside out and then flip them back again if I stitch them. It's not gonna happen. I am just gonna bite the bullet and just stitch as close to the edge as possible, and hopefully stitch it cleanly closed. And we're gonna use that to be the little straps for the tank dress that'll go on top. So again, 5" by 1/2". I'm not gonna fold it the wrong way. Let it sit good way exposed and pin it. And we're just gonna sew it like that. At the end of the day, let the lesson be learned that sometimes things don't go exactly according to plan, but you adapt and you take a moment to take a step back and think about it and see what can be done differently to make things work out. So let's get into it. I am going to start with sewing the hemline. All right, so like I said, I cut off the ankle band that was on the sock and flipped it inside out and put it over my sock dress like this. And because both of these edges are like raw, it didn't matter to me which side it was. Like if I had a clean edge like this, then I would have faced that part up and the raw side would be what I sewed. It's inside out, so that way right sides are facing. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and sew that closed. It's all right. I still like it better than what I had going yesterday. We're working with a very thick sock. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hem this, because if I don't, it's just going to fray all over. So I'm just going to flip that in. I'm just eyeballing it. So it actually looks really good. Forgive the armless horror show, headless horror show for a minute. And this works okay for the top, which is great. So now what I'm trying to do is to figure out how I want or where I want to place the straps on the dress. My thought is that I'm gonna pin where I want it and then take the dress off. Pin as carefully as possible so I don't poke. Okay. I'm just pinning the back because I think I can line it up okay here in the front by just looking at the dress. So I'm gonna pull this off her body. Since I still have to sew these closed, I'm just gonna pin the approximation of where I want this to go on the dress itself. And now we are going to sew these closed. And I'm gonna stay as close to the edge as possible. Like I said, we want the good sides facing out because this is very tiny. There's no way I would be able to flip this inside out so you can't see the seam line. So it won't be perfect, but we're gonna make it work. That's what this whole video is about, making it work. All right, we have strap number 2. I have like ever so small bit of excess. I am going to do a very careful clippy clip, trim, cool beans. All right, so I had pinned where I want the straps to live on the dress, rough edges facing in. I am going to match this up as best I can. Pin it and then look at it. Give it a good look-see to see if I'm cool with that placement and the length. All right, and I'm going to do a quick looky-loo. All right, I'm good with that. So I'm going to do a little flip, and I'm gonna sew the inside, sew those straps. I honestly don't know how I'm gonna do this. I'm kind of thinking that I'm gonna try to not go all the way through the fabric so that you don't see the strap line or the stitch line. I don't know, I mean, it's a pretty thick sock, so I might be able to do that. So I'm just trying not to make it like a full-blown stick the needle all the way through. I'm just grabbing some of the fiber of the sock because I really don't want any lines if I can help it. I wish I could explain that better, than I'm just trying not to go all the way through the sock, just far enough that I can attach my straps. I might have a little bit that peeps through, but I'd rather just be like microscopic bits of thread than, whoa. All right, so now we have our straps. Now is the true test. Now we see if this works out the way we had hoped. All right, well, here's the finished product. I am happy that it fits and that the straps actually were like the perfect length for this dress. I think for salvaging that sock, it looks pretty cute. I am actually really excited to try this with some of my regular fabric and with my sewing machine and see if I can make just like some cute tube tops. But I think that this can be done with socks, especially if you're learning how to sew, getting into sewing, which I am very much a noob. I've only been sewing for maybe close to 2 months now, and I think that socks are just a great medium to use. I'm glad that we were able to salvage it and still make something out of the sock, as opposed to just, you know, giving up and throwing in the towel. I am learning, I am trying new things, and I've learned that a lot of things don't go according to plan, and that's okay. And it's a humbling experience, and it's a reminder that one of the most important things that we learn is through failure. And through failure, we're able to be more innovative and come up with solutions that will work better long term. So as always, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we love you lots, and we'll see y'all later. Peace out, bean sprouts. Bye. Oh my gosh. Jen, you almost died. Holy Toledo, Batman.